因为你那个连接 OK 了，完了。连线够到这里，到这里，很奇怪，你坐在那边，完了，你线可以拉到这里来做，把整个你的电脑拉过来。但是你一定是要白色的，白色的可以拿。像你从这边拿，那你背过去。你从这边线才够长，因为它有一条在这里，所以你一定要到这里。然后你那个麻烦，对对对。不好意思，没有没有，刚好现在这一线，还是早上以上。那你做对那都过。好，可以过去，过去。啊，对对。一点啊，对对。对，所以我意思说就是说，会否会否还有
要问大师的问题，高专业的，不然太难了。
然后看一下我有没有够。
好，对。我其实真的
那是我权限。
也不如他。
我知道他这个是有限制的，那个。我把那个他都在。
那换的话，
那你就直接转。
算了。谢谢谢谢。
有限吗？
刚才字幕变模，你们调完了那个网络之后，然后变模，就是我有在监看，然后我就说，哎，怎么突然刚才可以了？
没办法。
工作人员。对，来，那个对，我把它换一下，这个拉过去，这个拉过去。
小心线哦，小心手，容易线。
对。小菜，来一下。对，然后。这边动。方向应该是有点好像对没错。你再回来这里说。
好，调完就好了。对。这网络，他可能网络不行。
那我这个没要做那边就可以靠这个里面。正常情况之下应该是靠这个。你就坐这里，这个。
有那边还有标志，还有2槽，就这样会在那边，在那边。
没有，它有些是没有人上去，没有用到我们上面。
我知道，我知道，我这是在搞的。你说什么东西？我属于关键区的。
店长。来这里，要来这里。
你是用滑鼠？我都可以，你要点那个，上这个是。或者是点这个概念，这个概念包含是我在前面啊。
When you should share your screen, share the animation. Find the work out. Your presentation question on a phone. Yeah.
他的工作人员。 我知道，一种是从街上那个线。
Testing. Sam, can you guys hear me from this end speaking? Are you able to hear me? Yes. Okay. Okay, so it's good now. And let me just introduce her. She's one of the Well, later on, we can switch microphones. Find out. Find out. So, we will start around. First.
麻烦各位医师请就座，我们会议11点正式开始。那麻烦各位把那个手机关那个静音。那我们今天的部分的话，会有是主要是由线上两位医师，两位国外 speaker 会连进来，那也会有一些医师是透过网络连线进来的。好，那我们就把我们今天的我们把麦克风交给我们今天的主持人，亚东医院的张淑文副院长。那麻烦副院长，谢谢。
Good morning, Professor Barrett, Dr. Hayes-Smith, and dear colleagues. Thank you very much for joining this symposium. So before we start, I would like to thank Professor Barrett and Dr. Hayes-Smith and all participants for your valuable times, particularly in this beautiful Sunday morning. So your presence makes this symposium successful. And we are going to focus on the technology and the surgery. So multifocality restoration is one of the major concerns in modern cataract surgery. And monovision is an effective approach for those who are very concerned about multifocal IOL-related OT symptoms. It is also an affordable approach for spectacle independence. So our focus today is the way to enhance monovision with advanced technology, IOL. So before we start, I would also like to thank Sherry and UMI for organizing this meeting. And at the beginning, I'm very honored to introduce our first speaker, Professor Graham Barrett. He is one of the most influential ophthalmologists worldwide. And let me briefly introduce Professor Barrett. He trained in ophthalmology in Perth, Western Australia, and undertook specialty training in the States. He is a consultant ophthalmic surgeon at Sir Charles Bernard Hospital. Professor Barrett is the founding president of Australian Society of Cataract and Refractive Surgeons. He is the recipient of many major international awards, including the Ridley Medal Award of ESCRS, the Binkhorst Medal Award of ASCRS, and the Ridley Medal Award of Congress of German Ophthalmic Surgeons. He has been very famous for the Barrett Universal 2 formula that many of us use in our daily practice. His topic today is Best of Both Worlds, Rayner Lens. Let's welcome Professor Barrett.
Morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'd like to acknowledge my interest in of excellence
你把麦克风放在这个，
刚好我们是有线的，不好意思，技术上是。
Can you try speaking now, Professor Barrett? Oh, okay, sorry, it's still the same as earlier. Can you try again now? Yeah, I can. Yeah, let's just start with microphone. Yeah, the audio is fine. It's just earlier. Okay, Professor Barrett, can you do a little test? Testing again, it's the same as before. There's something on our side here.
没关系，那个我们现场的伙伴们哦，他们在那个处理那个技术问题的时候，我们就不要浪费时间。我想说，我们就先讨论一下，想请教各位哦，有的不好意思，因为我们就故意不传到国外去了哈。就是大家稍微聚焦一下，请问大家有在用那个 monovision approach 的，可以帮我们举一下 monovision？有，一个 monovision 有吗？很少。那因为它这个其实是一个那个短延教的概念嘛，好 ，very collaboration， 所以大家有在用 IHS 的有吗？不懂。我们今天先听听看，好，因为它是 enhanced monovision 嘛，所以我们本来想说，先互动一下，那个再听听看它怎么帮忙大家这件事情做好。所以那不好意思，那再请教一下，就是大家有在用 multifocal IOL， 应该就很多了，也不多耶。所以可能我们等一下就是有一些问题可以互相讨论嘛。
但是他说像
Professor Barrett, can you say something for us? Thank you.
持续扣。你的麦克风。你看这个。
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you too.
Ah, 你如果把电脑放最大声，然后麦克风放在电脑旁边，对啊，然后就放电脑 speaker 旁边这样。以前他们饭店的人来嘛，会议扣不到，对，扣不到。你如果扣不到的话，我们各自就要抓紧时间。
You're getting the audio from my laptop to pick up.
你的声音出来了。那个一人一位接你的，你快你接你的。刚声音出来了，对不对？来，你试试看。
不好意思。
你接你的。
部长先讲，先解决。对，可是他外国人他们可能等一下有事。你先问一下。
对，就这样。你这边有没有声音？
Sherry 我们可以，因为他应该只有15分钟而已，在队长先讲，可以。
Oh, yeah.
可以哦 ，OK。不好意思，那因为那个technical problem， 所以我们现场我们先举办那个第二个 speaker 哈。那我们下一场第二场是那个王家康部长哈。那王医师他是台大医学系毕业，那现在是亚东医院的眼科部主任，源自大学的副教授，同时他也兼任 打东医院社区健康发展中心的主任。那他今天要讲的主题是 My personal experience with new generation of Zepto。那我们先欢迎王部长。
不好意思哈，因为那个技术问题哈，大师还没上场，小 T 先来代打一下。那就是这是因为今天是太原公司主办，谢谢太原公司的邀请哦。那这是他们就是最近一个新一代的产品哈，因为 Zepto 其实上市很久了，不过他们最近有一个新的那个新版哈，那刚好就是本院就是刚好买，就是趁着这波浪潮买进来这个新的机器。那所以就是也开始用他们新一代的东西哦，所以我们大概来看一下，就是跟他以前有一些不一样，其实大同小异了哈，不过就是有一些简便性，就是简单来说，它变得比较傻瓜，因为以前就是可能要计算啊、想啊、算描述什么东西，现在通通傻瓜哈，那个机就变成傻瓜相机一样，就什么都不用想哈，而且还有中文界面哈，因为它本来都是英文的指示，它现在你就把它切成 Chinese， 它还有那个大陆中文跟台湾中文两种选择哦，还蛮不错的这样。希望下次有台语哦更好。然后好，那个它大概原则上就是说，好，没关系。那可是你这边你自己跟那没有同步，没有同步。好，没关系。好，那个就是说，这个 Zepto 它其实它前面就是主要就是有一个手柄哦。那个手柄的话呢，它就是前端的部分，我们把它放大来看，可以看到还是有空的嘛？对，都没有好，没关系，就是它那个，就是它前面就是外面哦，它会有一个 suction 的 cup， 它是相对比较软的那个 cup。然后这个 cup 的话，就是说它主要就是可以把这个 capsule 吸起来哈，主要是先固定住。它主要就是做 CCC 嘛，我当然知道大家用手持 CCC 是非常简单的哈，好像不太需要这个机，但是它其实我们等一下看一下，它有一些 evidence 可以看得到，就是说就是说它有些 evidence 其实是有帮忙的哈，对我们做手术是有帮忙的。它外面就是有一个这个 suction 的 cup 哈，这是软的，会先把这个 capsule 吸起来哈，整个吸起来之后呢，它主要的功用就是说它中间这边有一条可以看到一条电线，这个铁丝哦，这叫 medial ring。它这个 medial ring 它会发出这个电波哈，然后就做出 CCC 来哈。那中间这个地方主要是让我们对那个 visual axis，visual axis 其实大概就是说我们一般就是看那个light reflex 的地方哈，那 light reflex 就是要对到，它对到以后刚好大概在中间的地方，这样我们实际做出来就是在 centration 就会是对的哈，所以一般就是它一开始会把这个手柄先让它缩小，因为它这个直径哈，外面这个直径的话可以到6.1了哈，那其实它是软的哈，但是它因为我们最后capsule筒你做出来它是5.2，所以它这个前面要先缩进去，因为我们大概如果不管你伤口最小到2.2好了哈，那你放进去还是要先把这个先把它先缩起来。它缩起来之后，它可以展开之后对好 visual axis 哦，对好中间的这个 package image 对好之后呢，然后我们踩下去哦，它就会 fire， 就可以做出一个这个，它是会有12个 micro pulse 哦，然后在4个 millisecond 里面，然后做出这个5.2 mm 的这个 capsule 筒。那就是说，它的原理主要就是说，它这个 Zepto 下去之后哦，它一开始它会先放电。它前面会有点烧灼的感觉，它局部会产生高温，高温以后它会因为这里面有水嘛，我们前方里面有水，它会变成水蒸气，后面是用水蒸气来切割哦，所以我们看电子显微镜就是可以很明显，然后前面这边是用烧灼的，它后面是用这个水蒸气去切割的，所以它这个前面的 edge 有点不太平，但是后面这个 edge 就会很平，而且它上面这个呢就会变成它的那个 strength， 它这个可以承受的那个压力拉力就会很强哦。那跟冰筒做出来，因为冰筒是用这个雷射去打的哈，它就是一点一点这样去打出来哦，所以其实它这个表面就比较不是很平滑。那这是我们用手撕的CCC，好，那所以我们就可以看到，就是说这个是它本身的元件其实非常的简单哈。这个踏板呢，就是放在我们的平常我们那个杯口踏板的旁边哈，那就是我们用脚来控制哦，完全就是以前都是要声控，请那个流动哈，那个刷手的护士，流动的护士帮你去按面板，现在都不需要哈，我们用这个踏板就可以控制。 然后这个机器它很非常简单，我们就把这个管子接上去，然后这个机器 power 把它打开就好了，然后什么东西都不要做，上面这些按钮通通不用按，它会自己一直往下跑这样子，通通不用按。所以那个助手非常简单，就是那个流动的那个护理师非常简单，所以操作非常简单。那前面这个管子的部分呢，我们就大概要来介绍一下。那这个是那我们就是为什么要买这台机器？因为亚东医院也是私人医院，为什么要花这个钱去买这个机器？它一定有它的道理，所以它的 evidence 在什么地方？就是说，这是我个人的 CCC，可以看到，好像是的还可以，还不错，还蛮圆的 ，centration 也不错。但是呢，这是我挑了过去2个月来，我自己也做了 CCC，我就一个一个去挑这样子，那当然会挑到像这样子，做太大了，不小心做太大，这样子可能病人脾气动一下，或是不小心失手会失到太大，失手太大其实对我们还要缩头，要不然第2天这个 IOL 会往前跑，而且有的时候会造成这个 pupil capture，甚至还要再进来弄一次。那或是有的时候就是不小心会歪掉，病人一直往上看，有时候做出来是 centration 的，或是这个 circularity 不太好，其实都还是会做出这样子不太完美的 CCC，那这样其实对它术后，我们号称就是我们要做的是把白内障变成一个 refractive surgery 的话，其实它是会有差别，或是有时候做太小，甚至术后还要 capsule phimosis 我们要去打雷射，有点麻烦。那所以说我们用 Zepto 就可以去除这些问题，而且这个 centration 跟 PCO 也是有关系的，那不管是它的直径的大小、范围、circularity 和 centration， 其实它都是跟术后的这个 ELP 会有很大的关系。那 ELP 就会跟我们术后的这个度数会有关系，所以如果大或小的时候，其实我们这个术后要 predict 它 postoperative 的 refraction 就会很难，就很困难，所以不是靠一个 biometry 做准就可以，其实术中跟术后的结果都是要靠跟医师的这个中间的 practice 是有关系的，那当然我们知道这种 Fin-Tone，那我们本院用的 Fin-Tone是用 Z8，那 Z8 也还蛮好用的，因为 Z8 它本身就是那个之前许翠刚医师也有提到，上次他的实在非常精彩，因为我没有用过那个 Lasix，那他的这个问的没有问题，那但是事实上我们在这个randomized study 里面看得到，就是 Fin-Tone 跟我们 Menu 做，其实它的这个 SIA 问的 leakage 其实是没有差别，也就是说大可不必花这个钱去做这个问的，其实你用刀片做就可以了。第2个呢就是 fragmentation，类似的 fragmentation 事实上在 randomized study 也看起来就是 endothelin loss 其实并没有差别太多，因为它只有前半段，后半段我们还是要用 phaco，所以其实这个 phaco 的 energy 当然是会有差，但是术后的 ECD 是没有什么差别，所以也就是说你从头到尾这个 fragmentation 就用 phaco 其实也没有什么太大的差别。那所以唯一有差别大概就是这个 CCC 了，因为 Fin-Tone 做的 capsule 透明的话，就是跟 Zepto 一样非常的圆，但是它差别就是说你可以控制大小，但是 Zepto 不行，它固定就是 5.2， 你没有办法改变它的大小，所以可见呢，就是说这一台这么贵的机器呢，其实最重要的部分就是在这个 capsule 筒，所以也就是说它便宜多了，它真的是就是跟病人的时候会便宜多了。我现在很多病人其实他是用健保片，但是他要用 Zepto，因为他出得起，他听到 Fin-Tone 他就跟你说拜拜，他说不用，但是他听到 Zepto 说，这个价钱我可以接受，所以他宁可用健保片，然后他要安全，他觉得要安全一点，他以后他的手术选要好，他不要手术有什么问题，他会用 Zepto，那所以他们的特点大概就是说，第一个它就是很 safe，因为就是说我们在这个Ronil 的部分，因为我们其实等一下会看到影片，它会有点往下压，大家就会觉得说，这样子如果它Ronil已经 efficiency 的话，我们这样往下压会不会让它这个 lens 更不稳？那事实上，在这个兔子的实验上面或是人的 cadaver 上面，他们看到其实这样来做起来，它对 Ronil 的这个 stress 并没有太大，没有太大的差别。然后另外就是它很 strong， 我们等一下可以看到影片就是它这个 CC 就是很强韧。然后就是我们中间 VGS 一定要先对到，就是对到这个 Purkinje P1 这个地方，在这个 Zepto 这个 ring 的这个中间，先把它对好，那之后 CCD 就很准。好，那我们可以看一下那个影片的部分。好，谢谢。好，那我们看一下它这个是原来的卡通，就是卡通的影片YouTube 上面都会有那我相信很多surgeon都看过了那只是就是说我中间会 讲一下，就是说我们实际上在操作的时候，真的有一些地方要注意。第一个哈，要先看一下它有没有问题哈，要看一下它本身有没有问题。为什么要看这个？就是表示它可能会有不良品。好，你千万不要插进去了，才发现它是不良品。好，所以你要先看一下，反过来看一下，花一点点时间看一下。好，然后另外就是说，怕这个前面会有这边玻尿问题，有时候 limbo 问题这边会有 flat 哦，可以先涂一点 visco， 然后再进去。那它这个是用这个 ring 哈来 stabilize， 好，那我们没有买了，所以我是用我的那个 chopper 哈，从 cycle 进来固定，其实都是可以的，好，然后进去以后呢，我们再把它这个 handpiece 上面这个开关打开哈，它就可以把它展开。那展开这个旁边的距离大概是6个 mm 的，也就是说你的 pupil 最好是7到8啦，是最好。那如果比较小呢，就是一定要 sure 它已经到 iris 下面去才行，好，然后现在它在开始在 suction， 好，它 suction 它就是把这个 capsule 给它整个吸住，然后呢，它其实机器现在都会自动提醒你说，you can Zepto now， 我们就知道说，你现在可以做 Zepto 了。那这时候 Zepto 插板插下去，就是几个 millisecond 它就做完，好，然后做完之后呢，就会这时候是助手唯一的，就是抓流动护士唯一就是要打一些水 ，release 这个 suction， 它才能出来，那有时候出来的时候，它顺便会把这个 iris 带出来，所以这时候有的时候就是要出来的时候会有一点点暴力的，所以出来的时候要稍微看一下，如果有的话呢，可以加一些 visco 或是用 chopper 稍微挡一下，像这样稍微挡一下，这样有时候那个 iris 会跟着出来，要看一下，大部分其实都不会，那所以就是大概要注意的事情。好，那再看一下，就是我们上礼拜其实请这个探员公司帮我们一起录的，我希望可以呈现出真实的那个样子。好，那这个是我们这个先上到这个手术台上面那然后这个是我们的护理师先准备，先把 BSS 大概10cc 打进去，像这个管路里面充满 BSS，BSS 不是 normal saline，BSS 先把它装配好，其实并不会太困难。这个护理师大概就是教2次，不常来，大概教3次应该就可以了。所以厂商大概就是前2个月请他来跟到，那之后大概，那如果因为我们是大概有10个人要 training 因为他们 fix 的人和流动的比较多，所以那如果说像贵诊所，假设只有1位的话，那大概就来教个3次，厂商跟个2个礼拜其实就可以了。那这个就是它的这个 handpiece 的样子它上面会有一个保护套，先不要拆开。那踏板放在这边，我们踏板放在脚这边，好，那这时候我们就可以看到，就是它先接上去，它先接了，我们再把保护套拆开，有一次我是先拆开，它来接上去，它就不能动了，所以一定要是把机器那边都先装好以后我们就放进去，那我们同步就可以看到，我是用和 chopper 固定，然后呢手柄推一下，它就会缩起来，让它缩到大概2.2个 mm 的。会有点紧所以我建议初学的时候呢，你们可以把问的稍微大一点点，比如大概2.3或2.4，会比较容易进去那因为这个是应该是我第20吧，或是18个 case 所以我大概就应该是还好，比较习惯了。好，那这时候就把它张开然后要看一下它中间 breaking image 大概在这个地方，要确定在它这个 ring 的中间确定没问题，这个 centration 没问题，那这时候它就会提醒你。声音真的很小，我里面有声音的，对，机器真的是用中文讲，那不是我说的话，中文，要提醒你说 ，you can push the rod 你可以把拉杆拉起来，就要让这个 suction 更下去，就是 suction 的更好那这时候你看到我的手腕会微微再抬起来一点点大概10度到20度然后这时候他说你可以 Zepto， 我们就踩一下以后 Zepto 它就做完了你看到闪一下就是 Zepto 已经做完了，然后这时候他会提醒你说，你 you can release 你可以把它这个松开那这时候它这个流动的护士就把里面的这个水就出来让这个 suction release， 那我们就一样就把它拉出来因为这个 AC 相对比较深，所以我就没有在怕就直接拉出来就可以了好，那我们看一下，确定一下它的这个有的时候它那个 CCC 的那个 cap 就跟着出来了，就不用做这个动作好，那这个时候我们已经开完了可以看到非常圆 centration 非常的好我们是用那个菜匙，所以它中间会有3个灯它可以看到这个 breaking image 在正中间我们就把水泥放进去那所以大概就是这样的情形就是我们可以看到同步两边的情形就是在显微镜外跟显微镜内的我们同时把它录起来 好，那所以顺便帮他们，他说要帮他们广告一下哈。那我事实上真的都是用，我现在每一台 case 大概都是用这个 OBD 哈，它就是他们这个Rainer 的这个牌子哈。那它主要就是它特别，当然玻尿酸本来就不稀奇哈，它比较稀奇是因为它有加 sorbitol， 那 sorbitol 当然就是一个可以降低这个自由基的东西哈。那所以但是那它的成分大概那个粘度大概是相当于这个 Discovisc 好，所以如果有在用 Discovisc 的人。Alcon 的 Discovisc 大概就是跟它差不多哈，它没有像 Helon GV、Helon 5这么的粘稠，这么 coercive 哈，也没有像 Visco 这么稀哈，这个 dispersive， 它大概就介在中间哦。那它另外一个很好的好处就是它有 1.2cc， 因为呢，不瞒大家说我还蛮常 VLOS 的哈。那为什么？因为我很多这个手术都是 post vitrectomy post VT 的，那 post VT 不时就会出一些问题哈，那所以。容量比较多，我会觉得比较安心因为它有 1.2cc， 它会比较多，而且它不用冰所以我们不用整个冰箱里面冰的全部都是一堆这个 OBD 它不用冰好，那所以就是我们再看一下刚才提点的几个问题，第一个要先检查一下因为它可能会有不良品所以这要检查一下我这20几个里面有2个不良品，真的有点多，不过就是这个要检查一下，要先看一下正反面看一下有没有问题。第二个就是我们刚才提点，就是说。我们在做 suction 的时候，手要稍微再提高上来一点点就是说让它那个 suction 可以更下去一点，因为它的这个 capsule 没有 suction 好，到时候它在做这个 pulse 的时候，它有的地方它会烧不到那个它就会有 tag， 那个 capsule 就没有完整，到时候就会产生 radioactive 就有这个问题所以一定要让它整个 suction 下去才行然后就是这就是我们刚才说的就是要对一下这个 package image， 像这样就大概就歪掉就是P1 P4 就这边我就不再这大家应该以前都学过了1、2、3、4，那但是就是要把它 fuse 在一点那大概就是病人的 visual X， 就是眼睛对到中间去，那看中间的灯光那大概就没问题，那就是要对到我们这个 ring 的中间好，然后所以就是前面的几个 case 的话呢，最好就是问的大一点不要太小，要不然否则有时候刚进去的时候就把那个 iris 机扯进去这样子然后第二个就是说这个 OBD 就是看大家怎么选择了他们也没有说一定不能用1楼，然后就是一定眼睛要固定否则像这样子没办法进去。ACD 他建议就是不要太浅，不要太深，太深有时候怕你 suction 下不去，太浅有时候怕你进去的时候就扯到 iris 或是碰到你的 OCT 不过后来大概10个 case 我就没再看这个了，因为我觉得好像用起来都 OK， 不管浅或深的其实都可以。那最好就是如果当然是大于7个 mm 以上，如果太小，一开始你就做很有挑战性的，可能会比较 frustrate 所以就是 pupil 最好大一点，然后要请他看中间的灯光，那其他那些奇奇怪怪什么发 PIV 症状最好就是都先避免那之后呢，就是说如果 AC 是比较 deep 的，我们就少打一些 OBD 比较 shallow 就多打一些 OBD 让它有 space 可以进去，然后一定就是要非常小心，千万不要去碰到，在 suction 的时候千万不要碰到 iris， 否则 iris 一 bleeding 就后面就很难再做下去所以就是尤其是那种 pupil 刚好在6个 mm 的，你就看它那个 suction 的 ring 刚好就在这个 pupil 的旁边 ，iris pupil margin 旁边，你觉得好像可以了，就一吸起来以后就发现整个 pupil 整个缩过来就给它一起吸起来那这时候就要赶快请助手帮你把它 release 掉再重新来但是这时候应该 iris 就开始 bleeding 好，那这是他们实际在做的这个 randomized study， 可以看到说它的这个拉力这个 Zepto 比 CCC 或者是 Pinton 都来得好那我们来看一下那个影片这个就是说它实际在卡塔巴上面做的上面那个是 CCC 美纽的 CCC， 下面这个是 Zepto 你可以看到这个时候它已经裂开了这时候还没裂，还在继续拉到这里才断开所以看这个就知道就是说它的拉力真的是够强也就是说它的这个 CCC 会这个很稳固那 safety 呢，它其实在眼球里面呢，它大概只有上升1度 C 而已所以其实是非常安全的那你有时间看的说或者是没有什么差别这样子好，那就是有一些 paper 的部分呢，看起来就是说跟美纽相比起来这 PPC 就是 Zepto 的意思那跟美纽比起来的话，不管是术后的度数 EVA 或 CCC 的这个 tear rate 那个都差不多。然后这个 residual 的这个 refractive cylinder 在 toric IOL 是比较少的，意思就是说我们这样做出来的 CCC， 如果我们放 toric IOL 的话，它其实它因为它的 centration 好，所以它术后的这个 rotation 或是说我们对角度对好了，它大概就不太会动，所以它术后剩下的这些散光，那就会比较少，所以这个就是跟 CCC 有关系，这个应该大家可以想象，应该结果应该是这样。然后另外就是说，它在 ELP 的这个 variability，就是它这个前后的这个变异度是比较小的，因为它的 CC 都固定，它不会像美妞这样子做起来会变来变去这样子，然后但是呢，就是说，因为我就想说奇怪，因为我等一下看到，其实我的 radial tail 有点多了，我就想说奇怪，我的 learning curve 是比较长还是怎样？后来我看到比较以前的一个报道，就是说它前面100个 case 有28% 都有 radial tail， 就是在做在投，就是大概1/3有 radial tail， 听起来好恐怖，所以我的技术应该不会算太差了，那等一下可以看一下，那另外就是说这个是比较大规模一点，后来就是比较成熟的话，大概就是说99%都可以就有一个 free floating 的这个 capsule 然后360度会有 capsule 的 overlap， 然后跟它这个 capsule 的 center 跟这个 IOL 的 center 大概差别是200个 micron 以内，也就是非常近，也就是这个 centration 是做的是非常的好的，那也可以做在 tough case， 不管是这种 traumatic kata 啦 lens subluxation 啦 intumescence kata， 或是这是做在 PK 的 open sky 都可以拿来用，那都是有成功的案例。那这是我的24个 case， 从7月开始，因为我们前面采购流程花了有点久，大概花了将近7、8个月的时间，7月东西进来，然后我们到9月我大概做了24个眼睛，那有一个就是像这样子非常惨，就是说就是吸到 capsule， 它大概就是 pupil 大概6个 mm， 那我觉得很 confident， 反正那种30个 mm 的反而都没问题，因为我很小心会伸到这个 iris 的下面去，但是呢就是那种6个 mm 就觉得刚刚好，好像差不多，就一吸下去就整个海冰马就跑出来，非常恐怖，那当然就请他 release， 我们前方洗一下，重新再做一次，但是就要重新上一个 handpiece， 那就要重新再上一个 handpiece， 这个 case 还是成功，那术后而且第二天他没有海冰马，还是好。那另外一个就是 radial tail 我有2个，也就大概有 8%， 有点多了，那但是这个可能就是 learning curve， 就是一开始的时候一定要确定这个 suction 要下去，因为第一次开始用，我刚才讲了那么多事情，你们一定记不得，大家一定记不得，因为孙启清医师以前也讲过，他讲了那么多事情，我一件都记不得，我只记得把它放进去，然后就结束了，但是后来就发现说，其实有很多东西要记得，对，一定要记得，因为 suction 非常重要，因为当你前面第一个、第二个 case，厂商跟你到你都成功，你后面就会疏忽，就觉得这很简单嘛，后来才发现说，这等到 radial tail 出来以后，才会开始想说，对我哪里没做到，就是要记得。好，那所以就是这我们再提醒一下，就是说在问的进去的地方，要多打一些 OPD， 要不然有时候会把那个 iris 扯进去，或是拉出来的时候，那这个 lens 一定要稍微有点把它往下压，要让它suction上去，然后这个眼睛的位置一定要 hold 住，就是不要让它歪掉，然后对好这个 visual axis，那坏卡塔我有做一个，但是很可惜那天我们的录影机刚好坏掉，还蛮可惜的。坏卡塔真的很好用，因为我前一天才开一个坏卡塔，然后就Argentina Flex 我收了半天，收到我快昏倒了。这个坏卡塔就不用担心，因为它 Zepto 它就是直接下去，它不会有出现这个问题，而且我连那个 treatment blue 我都没有染，就直接走下去，其实就非常的快。然后另外就是其他这些步骤我们这边就不带提，那其实前面大家都讲过，就是一步一步要照着做，那只要中间没照着做，它要不然就是机器停在那边，它就不理你，就完全没办法动，所以就是要从头开始，所以就是一定要照着步骤，其实都不会太困难，那这些大概就是它的好处，就是说 visual axis precise， 然后这个 edge stress 很好，好，谢谢。
我那个演讲嘛，那不好意思，因为我们那个外宾在线上，那所以我们那个问题已经解决了，我们是不是就是把那个讨论放到最后面？好，那我们现在是回到那个外宾的这边，好。So Professor Barrett, I'm sorry for the technical problems. We have solved now, and so can we proceed with your speech now? Thank you.
No problem. And once again, I wish I could be with you, but I'm happy to join you online for this presentation on the best of both worlds. So the first recorded description of cataract surgery, as we know, was by Sushruta in the 6th century before the Common Era. And certainly cataract surgery has evolved since then to one of the most successful procedures performed in the world today. There's many different advances in recent years, including accommodative lenses, changes, trends, antibiotic prophylaxis, new lenses such as the adjustable lens. But one of the advances which I think is most interesting and really represents a shift in lens technology is the use of extended depth of focal IOLs, particularly in combination monovision. And because the selection of an appropriate lens by surgeons is one of the most important choices that they make today, this is the reason I've chosen this topic of the best of both worlds, seeing the Ray 1E, which I think provides a balance of quality and depth of focus. I think one of the most important choices that a surgeon faces is which lens he thinks best provides a patient the best opportunity, not only for excellent unaided distance, but also for unaided near vision. And when you look at the different choices and different types of lenses, it's important to consider several things. One is principles involved in the lenses. You need to understand clinical data, be familiar with patient outcomes, and even an element of philosophy. So astronomy is one of my hobbies, and optical quality of the lens is obviously paramount. And you can check the optical quality by simply examining a single star and adjusting the focus in and out, looking at the diffractive pattern. And this adjustable focus reminds me of the adjustable focus of the human lens. But of course, as we get older and in pseudophakia, focus of the lens is no longer adjustable. And I can remember my excitement when I first heard about diffractive bifocal intron, 1988, at the EIC, which was the CRS, 1988. And actually, I was one of the first surgeons to implant this multifocal lens. But unfortunately, the compromise in optical quality soon became apparent. So when you use a multifocal lens, in essence, it's a Faustian bargain, because there's a compromise in the single focus of a monofocal lens. There's a multifocal lens, puts a light, different foci, loss of light intensity. Not only light intensity, but at the actual image quality of an actual stellar chart, as in this paper, which was published in JCRS, you can see the different images, and really you question, how do patients tolerate this degraded image? Well, it's said to be by a process of neuroadaptation. Personally, I suspect the reason is that these patients often have cataracts, at least a dysfunctional lens, and so the improvement in contrast when they have cataract surgery may compensate somewhat for the contrast of a multifocal implant. Patients tolerate this degradation in quality. All multifocal lenses are associated with glare and halos, as you see in this comparison published in 2017. And this includes trifocals. I don't think it's an accurate reflection that trifocals have less glare and halos. It's present all diffractive wells. Trifocals do offer some improvement in acuity, as you see here in this comparison. But if you look carefully with the trifocal, intermediate focal zone is still not as clear as either the distance or the near vision. It's not that impressive. The alternative, an extended depth of focus IOL, is quite a simple concept. So instead of splitting the single focus of a quality monofocal lens, such as the Ray 1 concept, is to take that focus and simply extend the depth of focus. Now, there's many ways to extend depth of focus, many different technologies. One is to use a diffractive principle, such as in the phase shift technology employed by Alcon with Avidity, or with OAD bifocal and trifocal lenses introduced by J&J and by Zeiss. But you don't have to resort to diffractive optics. And it's possible to extend the depth of focus on the intraocular lens using spherical aberration, either negative spherical aberration or positive spherical aberration, as in the Ray 1. In the depth of focus by considering a pinhole principle, as you're accustomed to with cameras and photography, and this is the basis for lens, such as the AcuFocus lens. And of course, you can also use a rotational asymmetric optic. So the additional add power is localized one sector, such as in the Oculentis lenses, which use this principle. And it's interesting how in recent years, there are now several different extended depth of focus IOLs that are available, each employing one of these principles that I've discussed. I think when you select an extended depth of focus IOL, it's important to realize that the human eye is indeed not a telescope. So the focus is continuous, human eye, rather than fixed with a telescope. We don't have to worry about chromatic aberration because ventral cortical filters, which reduce chromatic aberration. And we even have a very specific architecture in the retina deal with spherical aberration, the so-called Stiles-Crawford effect. And the concept which I think is important is that it is possible to extend the depth of focus as you see here, comparing a lens with spherical aberration either to an aberration-free lens or a spherical lens, and also compared to a trifocal lens. Most important principle to bear in mind is that optimum quality vision is not simply about resolution, but indeed is trying to find a balance between perfect resolution and adequate depth of focus. And see, comparing an aberration-free lens to a lens based on positive spherical aberration, that this Landolt-C simulation, there's a broader range of focus where the letters are readable. And this lens has a sophisticated optic. Central optic has a combination of 4th and 6th order aberration, then blends the peripheral zone lower aberration to maintain quality and reading ability in low light conditions. But you can see that this lens qualifies according to the ISO and ANSI standards as a quality monofocal IOL. It fulfills these criteria. Perhaps the most important way to illustrate the function of the lens is to look at a defocus curve. And this is created by measuring the log acuity with a range of focus from -2.5 plus 2.5 diopters and a half diopter depth. And you clearly can see the extended depth of focus varying in the first positive spherical aberration Rayner lens compared to a negative spherical aberration IOL. And this test also illustrates to us some context where the extended depth of focus may be useful. So if you then combine the extended depth of focus eye with a modest level of myopia, just 1.25, you can see that there's a greater overlap between the distant side and the eye targeted myopia. And this overlap is even greater if a positive spherical extended depth of focus lens is used in both eyes, both the distance and the near eye. And so this principle of using positive spherical aberration with modest monovision provides greater potential for blended vision, also provides additional reading ability and reduced spectacle dependency. Particularly interesting is to look at the binocular defocus curve and compare this to what's been published as a defocus curve for a diffractive bifocal IOL, and even compared with trifocal IOL. And in particular, the intermediate vision is far superior, as you see in this comparison. And the reality is a lot of our daily function today is related to intermediate visual tasks rather than sitting and reading small text, such as warning. But this lens can also be used targeting distance vision in both eyes because the optic is tolerant of small levels of myopic defocus, which is often the target in emmetropia in both eyes. So you'll maintain better distance vision, the same level of myopic defocus. Now, when I coined the term EDF, and really this principle and lens was the first lens to be based on the concept of extended depth of focus almost 10 years ago. But look how many lenses there are today with different focus curve or within the family of extended depth of focus. But I would point out that the term doesn't describe a homogeneous group of lenses, and the dependency to dysphotopsia will depend on the optical principle employed, and also the ability to be used in combination myopia depends on the optical principle, because not all these lenses are really tailored or optimized for modest monovision. If you look at published data, you can see that the Rayner EMV performs well compared to other extended depth of focus lenses. In this comparison, this is targeting emmetropia in both eyes. See, there's excellent intermediate and even a useful range of near vision. Most important criteria for me is quality of vision. So when I did a pilot study of this lens some years ago, I compared the contrast sensitivity of the extended depth of focus positive spherical aberration lens, the standard negative spherical aberration lens, and there was no detectable difference contrast sensitivity either for photopic condition or mesopic condition, which is not true for published studies contrast sensitivity in other extended depth of focus. This is the Perth skyline at night, and with a monofocal lens, there's no light scatter, no glare and halos, as would be the case with the Ray 1 EMV. But looking at the same scene in the simulation, diffractive multifocal IOL, even a diffractive in the depth of focus IOL, one would expect dysphotopsia, halos, and this category, as I said, is not homogeneous, and it includes lenses which are essentially diffractive bifocal lenses, such as Symphony, or diffractive trifocal lenses. And these lenses, because they're based on the diffractive principle, would be expected to be associated with some level of dysphotopsia. And this is not the same for an extended depth of focus IOL, such as the Ray 1, based on spherical aberration, or indeed a lens based on phase shift technology, such as the Vivity lens. In addition, when you combine myopic defocus as you modest monovision, these lenses, such as based on diffractive technology, would be expected to have increased dysphotopsia. Perhaps the impact on MTF would be greater associated with But with a positive spherical aberration IOL, as I said, it is designed to work well with a level of modest color vision and focus. This is published data, and you can see a comparison of that of extended depth of vision on the top chart, Liberty compared to standard negative spherical aberration lens, comparison of impact, high-enhanced lens, and the depth of focus covering the Ray 1 compared to Symphony lens. And so each of these lenses have their own unique characteristics. But I think you can see one thing which is quite clear, and that is if you want to provide patients predictable near vision, you need to do is combine it with some level of myopathy focus comparison. And you see that the Ray 1 EMV gains clear range of vision distance up to 40 centimeters because the lens is optimized and is synergistic and used with the concept of modest monovision. This is actual clinical data. This is data provided to me by Singapore. He's done a clinical study on the Ray 1 EMV, and there's the focus curve, and there is a good range of vision, distance, intermediate, and even some functional near vision. I can start this one second. So six vision for distance. This is with enotropia in both eyes, maintaining good acuity, 6.7.5 for intermediate, and even at 40 centimeters, still some useful vision for 6.95. But when you combine this with an element of modest monovision, you can see the broad defocus curve maintaining excellent quality vision from distance, intermediate at 60 centimeters, and useful reading vision at 40 centimeters, the actual clinical data. So when you look at a choice of an optical solution or extended depth of focus lens, one criteria is total spectral independence. It's possible to be totally spectral independent with a multifocal lens and still be dissatisfied, whereas patients may occasionally need reading loss but be highly satisfied with the outcome. So I would suggest that using total spectral independence shouldn't be the goal, indeed not the primary measure of expected patient satisfaction. When I look at the compromise between choosing total spectral independence versus compromise in optical quality, for me, a combination of an extended depth of focus lens combined with positive spherical aberration and modest monovision, their preferred solution. There's no doubt that multifocal lenses do provide a greater chance of total spectral independence. But the compromise is quality of vision, and this requires myopic suppression of competitors, which is not physiological. As we discussed today, the optical quality of an extended depth of focus lens superior to that. Multifocal lenses, both in terms of contrast sensitivity, but particularly to the other factors such as dysphotopsia. And I think this is the reason, optical quality, why patients are so satisfied with extended depth of focus IOL levels. Essentially, you as a surgeon follow the cards. You have a perfect hand and hold all the aces. And so the unhappy patient has a multifocal lens and perhaps even require an hour exchange does not have to be part of your practice. And similarly, these lenses do not require extensive chair time because they can be used in a wide variety of patients without the same restrictions of trying to understand the patient's personality or their occupation, even concerns in the long term, development of gingival astigmatism and compromise in macular function, which can occur with age. So I think this lens could be considered by many surgeons as their lens of choice. And considering the ethical reciprocity first published in the Laborata, the ancient Sanskrit text, I think this lens is worthy of consideration for your own patients. And I'd like to thank you very much for kind attention.
Thank you, Professor Barrett. Thank you very much for your very informative talk. And do you mind if we save the discussion altogether later on? Thank you. So then our second speaker is Dr. Graham Hay-Smith. Dr. Hay-Smith is a well-known, qualified, and highly experienced ophthalmic surgeon. He trained in ophthalmology in the leading London ophthalmic institutions, principally St. Thomas Hospital for basic surgical training and Moorfields Eye Hospital for higher surgical training. He did a fellowship at the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital and Western Eye Hospital in medical retinal and inflammatory eye disease. He is the principal of the Modern Eye Group and is a highly experienced, high-volume ophthalmic and cataract surgeon. His topic today is Ray 1 EMV indications and experience with over 100 eyes. Let's welcome Dr. Hay-Smith.
So good afternoon. Hopefully you can hear me well. I'm just going to share my screen. So hopefully you can see my slides now. So if I could have some confirmation that the slides are visible.
Yeah, looks great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
So what I'm hoping to do today is to share with you a little bit of experience that I've had with the Ray 1 EMV lens. I've tried most of the lenses that Dr. Barrett has mentioned in his talk. In fact, I've tried them all, I think, apart from the AccuFocus with the pinhole optic lenses, in an attempt to give my patients the best vision that we can. Just trying to get my camera back up. Sorry about the faffing around here. Let me just seem to lost it. Okay, I think we're just going to not get my face, which is probably good for the rest of you. This is an outcome of an audit of about 100 patients, 104 patients who I've operated on recently since I've started using the EMV lenses. I think the important thing to note is that out of these patients, I attempt to try and get them as comfortable as I can with an element of monovision. Is something that I think is very helpful. And the key bit I think that we deal with in the modern world is that most of our patients are fairly relaxed about the actual very close near vision. And it's the world of an iPhone, an iPad, which I'm having troubles with using now, and computers, which are so important to our patients, even in our older patients. There's an extensive use of handheld devices. The main outcome was the uncorrected distance visual acuity, and I've also measured in these initial series the monocular uncorrected distance acuities where we can. Numbers are relatively small. So how does the EMV perform with emmetropic targeting? The key bit is that used as a monocular lens, as Professor Barrett was saying, it seems to perform very well, and there's very little drop-off. So unlike some of the other extended depth of field lenses, I'm not picking up much of a decline in my patient's satisfaction with their distance vision. And I've been using some of these lenses in people who aren't particularly sure about what degree of spectral independence they're actually chasing as a monovision monocular lens, not as a monovision lens, or a monocular lens, not a monovision lens. And you can see that nearly all of them see well. Used as a monocular lens, you can see here in these numbers that a large number of the patients do well with very useful near vision. And this is me using the lenses just targeting emmetropia. I think this tells you an awful lot about the lens and its degree of its ability to provide satisfaction to the patient by giving a reasonable amount of near vision. And you'll see it in a single eye here, set for distance. You're still getting 80% of the patients seeing N12 or better. So as I say to my patients in the clinic, with this lens, you're likely to be able to read a newspaper in good light, even if we do not do any monovision at all. When you use two eyes, binocular summation really comes to fore. And you can see here that in this series, 100% of the patients with eyes set for distance are managing N12 or better of near vision. And I think the ability to read a paper in good light or read a magazine in a lens that doesn't deny them quality of their distance vision is in itself a very credible performance. So how does this work when you add in an element of monovision? I've been a long-term fan of monovision. I've used all multifocal lenses and most of the extended depth of field lenses that have been around. But I have been taken by how patients are generally pretty happy with this lens. And I think a lot of that is that it's not denying them any distance quality at all, but it's giving them additional near quality, which they are very appreciative of. So this is looking at people who have been set to the two areas which I tend to use in clinical practice for monovision. So before the arrival of this lens, I was really setting most of my patients around about 1.25 diopters of monovision, feeling that for most people that was the optimal place to leave them with the myopia, normally in their non-dominant eye. You can see on this chart that I have started putting more patients into lighter monovision, and these are often patients who, when you explain to them monovision as an option, they're a little bit nonplussed. They think it's probably a good idea, but they're not very certain. I found that I can reduce further the degree of monovision down to the 0.5, 0.75 difference between the distance and the near eye, and I'm still getting good results with really no loss at all of binocular distance vision. So you can see that 89% in this series were managing really very good distance vision, even in their myopic eye. And when you compare that with what I'm managing to see in patients with their reading vision, you can see that the reading vision is also good, with all the patients in this series managing N8 or better. And that is good vision for reading in the modern world, certainly amply sufficient for them to see a mobile phone or an iPad. And that, I think, is a very helpful, a bit of additional vision, again, without the loss of the distance. When we put the two, and that's just me highlighting here, which I think is the key bit. So N12 reading 88% of them, even with a light monovision, so with very little anisometropia, they're managing N12. So 88% at N12, I think is a lovely figure for those people who are not going for full monovision. The binocular results, I think, are also really quite exciting with this lens. And you can see here the binocular outcomes of these three groups that I've got. One of the limitations of this series is that clinically I tend not to test patients less than N5 in the clinic. And you can see that all the patients with any degree of monovision are really managing N5 or N6 acuities. And even the emmetropic patients, you can see they're averaging N8.6, which is definitely good near vision. One thing I should mention is I'm allowing the patients to test their near vision at their preferred distance. So it's a slight limitation there, but definitely very real world. And that's the world that we're trying to get our patients sorted for. So no loss in the distance vision and considerable gain in the near vision is why I found myself now using this lens in increasingly large numbers. And there is also the impressive bilateral summation, which Professor Barrett has been taking us through. And you can see here that there's been a significant improvement in binocular vision when you test both eyes together. So we all know that the optical system is complex, and it's not just like the telescope that Professor Barrett had in his early slides. Human visual system has a significant degree of subsequent neuroprocessing, and my suspicion is that this is part of why this lens is working quite as well as it is in clinical practice. And you can see here that all the patients were managing N10 or better with binocular summation. And N10 is really, I think, most helpful vision. It allows patients to go to a restaurant and read the menu. It allows them to read newspapers and magazines and read things in the shops without having to get their glasses out. I explained to all my patients that I wouldn't be surprised if they needed a pair of weak glasses to help them read in bed at night by a single bulb. And I explained to them I'm not expecting them to be completely and utterly independent of glasses. But what I am doing there is probably under-promising, and I've had a reasonable number of patients who've told me that that's not the case, particularly the patients I've set with moderate myopic difference at 1.25 or thereabouts. Most of them are managing to read reasonably well, even in challenging light conditions, so far in my clinical experience. So the uncorrected distance visual acuity, even with the emmetropic targeting, I think is something here that we must look at, because it is a lens that doesn't seem to be denying the distance vision. It is generally a distance vision lens with quite a lot of additional plus, so a lot of bonus. So on Friday, I had a patient who came into my clinic who recently had some surgery. I'm just going to play you a clip because I knew I was giving this talk. I just asked her if she would mind me recording her, and she said no, crack on. And this was just in my clinic on Friday. So hopefully you could hear that it was a bit quiet at my end, but in summary, I'm basically finding that this is a lens that's fitting a very good niche in my clinical practice. It's providing really good distance vision with really no complaints or measurable differences from the standard monofocal lenses that I use. The near vision is clearly very useful, and you can see in that last patient in Kelly, she was managing N5 and reading and seeing distance N6 and was completely content. The mini myopic group, I think they're allowing me to provide a reasonable amount of near vision for patients who are otherwise quite nervous at the thought of having a degree of monovision, and we all know our patients can be. And so even in the mini myopic group, we're losing very little distance vision and getting really quite helpful and quite good near vision with almost no trade-off as far as I can see so far. The mini monovision group, where I'm taking them out to about 1.25 diopters, they are nearly all seeing N5 for their near and maintaining their 6.6 or 0.0 logMAR vision for distance. One of the limitations, as I said, is that I clinically don't test my patients greater than N5, and that's because I've always been content when my patient reads N5, and maybe there's room for further distance, but it does skew my numbers a little bit, not testing for N4. You can really see the binocular summation that the human visual system works with, and that further enhances the level of near vision that my patients are reporting. I've got a couple of tips so far in my use. I've used some 150, maybe 200 of these lenses now, and I historically have targeted my patients with a monofocal lens at 0.25 of myopia. I think with this lens, it works best when you target for straight emmetropia as best you can. And I think that it's a forgiving lens with a lot more tolerance, and it gives you, as a clinician, a little bit of attractive wobble, which tends to again result in high quality outcomes and satisfaction, unlike some of the lenses which really are trying to nail, negative spherical aberration. I think those can be really quite unforgiving in your patients, and this one definitely is not. The intermediate vision is good, and the near vision is good, and it certainly adds quite a lot more than with my standard monofocal lens. This is a really big one for me. I'm getting a lot of patients to N5, 6.6 acuity, both eyes open, reporting no dysphotopsias. And I have been asking them about dysphotopsias. And unlike when using a trifocal, which is my normal multifocal lens choice, there is really no reports whatsoever so far of dysphotopsia with this lens. That is, I think, a really key bit for this, because we all know those patients who absolutely loathe their dysphotopsias, and lens exchanges are something that is best avoided. And so fundamentally, this is a lens so far I've actually had no unhappy patients, which for me as a clinician, you cannot get better. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm going to play with my iPad once more to see if I can get the room back up.
Thank you for your informative talk. So we're now ready for discussion. I wonder if there is any questions from the audience.
Yes, I have a request and 2 questions for the Professor Beret. The first request is because can I invite you next year about spring, April? We have because I really love the Beret Universal 2 and the Toric and even the even the post-LASIK, that formula is very good, marvelous. So can we invite you to give us a virtual or face-to-face talk in Taiwan next year? And we have the ophthalmology meeting in April. Can you? Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation. Please email me and I'll just look at the table, but I would love to visit one day for sure. I haven't visited Taiwan.
Thank you. So we will ask the UMI company to do the following procedure. And I have two questions. The first question is, can you tell us more clear about your theory of the EMB? Because you say you use six, like a ring or area zone, the positive spherical aberration to do the EDOF. But I'm not really clear, because if you use the positive spherical aberration, the contrast sensitivity will decrease. But actually, we see the contrast sensitivity did not decrease. It did not decrease. So I don't know why it acts. The second question is, because we know the Symphony and Clara, they have about 1.5 diopter add. Can you tell us what's your estimation of the near add of this EMV lens? Thank you.
Great questions. First one, the choice of spherical aberration or positive spherical aberration was very deliberate. The human eye actually is designed for positive spherical aberration. That very best vision people get, not with zero aberration. It is in the laboratory then to perform best aberration. But in the human eye, if you look at studies, many studies, who has the best vision is people with a small amount of positive spherical aberration. No one knows exactly why. Perhaps it's the temperature of the retina. It's not a flat receptor, but that's the case. But of course, if you add too much positive spherical aberration, it will degrade quality contrast. So how much can you add and still be in that safe zone? And that's the design concept, to add just enough, give you some extended depth of focus, but not to degrade vision. A lot of other lens designs companies, they're greedy and they say, well, we want to read, and perhaps sometimes overdo the amount of extended depth of focus. So this is very deliberately targeted from the outset. The modest monovision component wasn't added as an afterthought. So, okay, it's not working as well as we would like to. Let's recommend some minus. It wasn't like that at all. It was insight that said, of course you are going to get adequate reading effectively just by extended depth of focus, no matter what principle. So you've got to add some minus optically focus in one eye. And what principle works best optically focus is positive spherical aberration. The other thing that's very important, don't perhaps always appreciate, that positive spherical aberration is really robust as regards decentration, whereas a negative spherical aberration is definitely the opposite. So there's a synergy between myopically focus and positive spherical aberration. They actually work together to improve quality of vision. You actually get better vision if you have a small amount of spherical aberration, positive, a small amount of myopically focus, put them together. The actual wavefront is actually better. It's quite fascinating. So it's all about how much to add, and it's all about a very conscious concept, which is to design something that can work synergistically. I think Brian's presentation was very eloquent, Brian, and you clearly described that you don't have to use it with modest monovision, -1.25. If you want to be really confident that you don't give that patient spectral independence, yes, but you can target any tropia and still have a benefit. And you can target maybe minus 0.75. So it'll give you more reading for modest level of myopia, such as 10 mini, minus a half minus 0.75. But you can use it with greater confidence when you target minus 1, because of that overlap I showed. So you maintain better integration between the two eyes, and you don't pay as much penalty. Although it's only a small penalty at minus 1, as regards stereo opposite, stereoactivity, but you compromise that even less because of that blend. So you really want to maintain binocular vision. This is a simple concept, but it's quite fascinating to see how it utilizes what we're actually designed for, which is a field modest vision and a degree of positive field aberration. You as a surgeon can decide how you want to personally use it, and you have a broad range of options. The other thing, when I looked at data recently, target minus 1, minus 1.25, and I do lots of modest monitoring. 8% of my patients have modest monitoring. And I know that you pay an impact, you pay a price for distance. The 618 every gram, maybe 618. But with this lens, you target the same minus 1, minus 1.25. Your distance vision is up in 6.9. So you gain an extra line of distance with the same RPP focus, which is also quite useful. But it's nice that you don't have to follow one specific recommendation. It's useful, Brian very eloquently illustrated that. Different strategies, and if you're uncomfortable with modest monovision, rather than any tropia, then perhaps we move up a bit, and then you have the magic of monovision plus the magic of contextual focus group. What's your second question? Maybe we answered it.
Excuse me, I have one follow-up question regarding the spherical aberration. Because we spend a lot of time, quite some time, discussing the asphericity intraocular lens to reduce aberration. So, how did you overcome market or surgeon confusion regarding this? Because you're going to add some spherical aberration to recover. For the monovision enhancement. There are some surgeons who choose spherical IOL according to the patient's spherical aberration preoperatively. They measure the cornea asphericity. So how do you overcome this confusion?
Not easy to overcome it, but ophthalmology goes through fashions and trends. One of the trends was you've got to add negative to compensate for the cornea. In the laboratory, that's true, and you can show some benefit. Clinically, it's very hard to show the benefit. Look at the studies comparing negative aspheric IOL, standard spherical lenses. Some studies there's no difference. Some studies the spherical aberration is better. Some studies negative. Inculcator didn't actually always do as you would expect, but we grew accustomed to that philosophy. But there's another philosophy, and that is quality vision is not just about resolution. Sure, you have to preserve some resolution. It's finding the balance, not only of resolution, as I mentioned in my talk, but also some useful depth of focus. If you give someone the most pristine vision, 6.3, for instance, distance, and yet he's got no depth of field, won't necessarily have patient particularly happy, because his world is sharp, but as he changes it, he doesn't get that range of vision. That's why he went down the pathway of multifocal lenses, focal planes, and I'm suggesting this is another pathway which actually probably has less complaints and less issues. Someone said, the other question was, what was the reading add? So the extra depth of focus is about 1 to 1.5. Depends on the patient. Depends on other aberrations they have in maybe one. But it's different than a diffractive concept where you have two foci, one at 0, one at 1.5. But the add you get is not similar range by a very different means.
Thank you. Are there questions from the audience?
We still talk about the specular vision, and I would like to know the result when you see this kind of the IOL in the post-myopic lazy patient. Will this positive specular aberration lens will influence the visual acuity and the dysphotopsia phenomena in those kind of patients?
But it depends. You have to be somewhat cautious. Modern LASIK, modern PRK have nice big broad optical zones. The amount of specular aberration they induce is very minor. Not like the old LASIK -10, very small optical zones. You should be careful in that context because you either shouldn't use this lens, -10 small optical zone, or you should take the trouble to measure the specular aberration. Make sure you're not taking someone from, say, 0.3 borderline to 0.4 or higher, where, of course, you would expect some problems. But for, more modern LASIK, more modest levels of myopia, I don't think you have to exclude this lens. I think you can use that lens. They may get a little bit more reading. Not going to get into that range degradation of vision. RK, I'd be very cautious because RK can definitely have lots of positive treatment. So I'll give you an example, practical example. When I have a patient